Good morning, everyone. Hope we are all doing well on this Thursday morning. A little bit later than usual. Gone away from the 9:15 time. I am suffering with hay fever today, so I've been trying to get that under wraps before I do this stream. So apologies if you see me itching my nose or sneezing or touching my eyes, because my eyes are really itchy today. So yeah, that is why it's like spring comes and the sun comes out and everything's happy, and then hay fever hits and I get reminded that I prefer winter. So yeah, there we go. I don't know if I prefer winter, actually. I think that's true. It's nice to have a bit of heat. Hi to everyone. Hi to FPL team. Hi to Alan Goldsmith. Hi to the Woodstock one, Chris. Hi to This Is Wrestling Film. This is Wrestling Film. Nice name. Hi to Kieran Brooks. Thanks for joining me this morning. It's it is a quiet one today. I think it's kind of synonymous with the season, really. It's kind of petering out a little bit, isn't it? We've got a couple of game weeks to go. There's not huge differentials that people are considering. Everyone's gravitating towards Newcastle players, Brighton players. Next week, I think we're going to see lots of people gravitating towards United players. Maybe a cheeky little Mahrez punt or something like that. People are going to be moving for Fernandes. I think 38 is going to be interesting. There's some interesting fixtures. See who's still playing for something. Target those home games. I know some people still got 3 hits left to play in that week. So 38 is going to be fun. But yeah, this week I think is the quite boring one. Next week a bit more interesting, and then 38 obviously more exciting. So yeah, a few things to cover today. Obviously the March injury has hit my team hard. That was not a transfer that I wanted to even have to think about. And to be fair, I haven't really got to think about the replacement. I think the March to McAllister move that everyone and their dog is doing that has March is firmly on the radar for me. I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but I can't imagine a world where I won't do that. The other options just aren't as appealing, I think, as McAllister with pens and good underlying stats, as we'll kind of talk about in this. Looking at my game week 35, rubbish week. I was going to bring out the bench pain grey again and the song and all that, but honestly, it's just so painful. De Gea coming in with 3. I mean, they conceded pretty early, didn't they? But yeah, it was at least it got the extra save point. No massive goalkeeper hauls, I don't think, apart from Ramsdale, but I think many of us were expecting a clean sheet against Newcastle. Awful defence. Trent, Dunk and Moreno. Trent with 7, good for him. -1 for Dunk, another booking. 2 bookings in his last 2 games. He's got 4 all season. Guess when I brought him in. Excellent. That's one Dunk. And Moreno. I played Moreno over Porro, didn't I? For those of you who watch Black Box, you'll know that Luke was trying to talk me out of it last week. He said Porro was the play, better stats. I just had earmarked Moreno for this fixture when I bought him, and looking back on it, I didn't really do any research between them. I was just completely set on playing Moreno. I thought the clean sheet chance was higher. I thought he had some attacking potential as well, as he demonstrated a few weeks ago when he got the assist and that double-digit haul. But they conceded, lost 1-0 to Wolves, and Porro went on to keep a surprise clean sheet, an assist, and 3 bonus. And he was the most advanced attacking player on the pitch. So here we go, listen to these. Oh, bless me. So yeah, it was really disappointing. I mean, Porro looks like a good option now between now and the end of the season. This week, you could play him if you have him against Villa. I could play him this week against Leeds in 38. I think that looks good for him as well. Looking at his heat map, playing really, really advanced up the pitch. So yeah, I mean, it's just like I was saying last night. It's to Luke. It's not the fact it's the wrong decision. It's the amount that you get punished when you make a wrong decision. I mean, that's 10 points between Moreno and Porro. Isak on the bench on the free hit a few weeks ago. That was 10 points versus some of the others that I played. Also, I went for what's his name? The Dawson from Wolves, who got like a 1-pointer, and then there was like 7 or 8 points around for some of the other defenders that I was considering as well. Watkins on the bench and Moreno, that was 25 points. The last 5 weeks have been brutal, and I did that classic thing of working out where I'd be if I'd played the right players. 50 points better off I'd be if I had got my bench right over the last 4 weeks. And that would see me nestled in around that 60k mark. So it's a massive, massive difference. Really, really frustrating. And yeah, I remember saying to Jenny, I didn't really think that bench points would hurt that much. Well, they do. I've learnt my lesson, and yeah, been punished for it. Yeah, sorry, my eyes are terrible with the hay fever. Thanks to Alan for his sympathy. In midfield, we've got Salah coming in with 10. I think this was an interesting one because, we talk about team lineups and team news, early team news that we get. I think if I hadn't known that Haaland was starting, I would have kept the armband on Salah just for that safety net of the definite kind of 90 minutes. As soon as we heard that Haaland was starting against Leeds, I switched that armband. Now, that is one of the issues with the team news, in the fact that it can sway your decision like that. Sometimes it's great to get it. Sometimes when a player's, like if Haaland's been benched and people have been moving their armband off him, I think that, arguably makes the game more fun, because we don't want bench players kind of in our squad not earning points. It's really frustrating. I understand there's people out there who won't see the team news, who don't have that extra news. For me, I still think they should push the deadline up to the first game of the week. I just think that would kind of solve a lot of issues, give everyone the chance to get that first information. It's never going to appeal to everyone. It's never going to be fair, you could call it, for everyone, because there's always going to be people at work who can't look at their phones to check the news. You could push the deadline back 24 hours, but then I think that alienates and kind of makes the game a bit more, alienates the kind of the more casual player, because, people just want to check it in the Saturday morning, not have to think about it 24 hours before. So, they pushed it back an hour and a half, and that was, I think that was a okay move, but it hasn't really stopped quite a few of the leagues coming through. So we should see whether they evaluate it next year, or whether they're just kind of happy to keep it kind of as it is. I vote just push it to 12:30, give everyone a bit more time to make their transfers, and then the midfield, the rest of the midfield, Rashford, March, and Matoma. I mean, March was incredibly disappointing. I mean, you get that kind of slither of hope when you see 12 points on your bench and a player in your squad not in the team. But I looked at it, I thought, well, there's absolutely no way March isn't going to come on. If Brighton are winning comfortably, there's a good chance to bring him on if he's not in a good moment, as the Zerbi's saying. I thought we'd be 4-0 up in that game. How wrong I was with Everton turning us over. If we're losing the game, you bring on March to kind of influence it and make a decision. If you're kind of drawing, you bring him on for his energy and his work rate. So there was no scenario really where I didn't think March would come on, but you've still got that 1%. Maybe we'll get a couple of injuries and we'll have to make other moves. But our squad depth really isn't that great, and the March injury is a big blow for us. I mean, what happens with March? I think probably Enciso comes into that right wing spot. We see Gross probably move to right back, or potentially Caicedo, but I think we need him in midfield. And then you look at the rest of our bench. I mean, Buonanotte is there. We've got Undav, who's I still don't really think is good enough, despite that great performance he had the other week. And then it's kind of kids, really. Billy Gilmore could come in, I guess, but yeah, our squad is quite thin. We've got weaknesses at right back, at left back, at right wing as well. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how we finish the season, because it's a lot of games coming up, and they're really, really tough games as well. We're playing Newcastle, we're playing Arsenal, we've got Man City to come, and we've got that Newcastle game this week is really tricky. I think at St James's Park. So lots of travelling, lots of difficult games, lots of congested fixtures. The team is knackered. We just need to kind of get a few more points, I think, to get that kind of 7th place, secured. But it's not going to be an easy ride for us. So we're all tripled up on Brighton, hopeful for big returns. They haven't really been coming as of yet. Even the 6-0 against Wolves, we saw all popular players not really getting huge returns. So yeah, it's going to be a nervy time, I think, for Brighton over the next few weeks. And then up front, disaster. Haaland captain with 4, Watkins with 1. And Isak with 2. What can you say? Absolutely awful. Watkins missed some good chances. Isak missed some good chances. Haaland missed some good chances. The chances were there, at least. But there's 3 game weeks left. I don't want chances. I want points. So hopefully that's going to happen in the next few weeks. I mean, target-wise, I'm obviously still pushing on for that top 100k. Team is very similar to everyone else's. Not really that many differentials to go. I think if I can go into 38 in and around 100, 120k, I can hopefully make that final push with a kind of a smart captaincy choice or a smart thing. But I think if I'm around this rank, which I just can't seem to get away from going into 38, then I'm not going to achieve my goals. 3 goals this season. Beat Mark. That's number 1. Don't get relegated from the Elite 64 FPL Generals League, which I'm hovering around the relegation spot in, and finish top 100k. If I finish top 100k, I'll achieve all 3 of those goals. And surely Mark isn't going to catch me up now. He's like 4 million in the world. He hasn't really pushed on too much either. So let's have a look at the watch list. This has been updated in light of what we've kind of been seeing. In defence, I've added Porro because I actually think he could be an option now for people. You know, non-penalty XGI per 90 since the restart, 0.31. It's not bad. Actually, it's just below Trent, for example, 0.35, although that has increased to 0.47 since his switch to midfield. This is non-penalty XGI per 90, I should say. Trippier remained top of all defenders, 0.37. Is he a captaincy option this week? I'm not considering him. You know, the lack of clean sheets for Newcastle is a concern. The Leeds game, he probably has a good chance of getting something from that. I think we score. I think there's goals in the Newcastle-Brighton game, though. So, yeah, I don't know. I think there's good options, you know, with McAllister and Isak. I think they're the 2 that I'd go for. Or a cheeky punt on Wilson if you're feeling that he gets good minutes. And if we get early team news about Wilson, because if he starts in that Leeds game, I think we might see quite a few captains switch over from Isak over to Wilson. Let me know in the chat if you're considering anyone else as well. I think it's probably just those. I mean, we might see some Matomas. Maybe people are going to go for a single game week player. You know, Salah's there as well. Rashford at home to Wolves potentially. Maybe one of the Man City boys away at Everton. Yeah, there's some good single game weeks, but I think the majority of us are going to be going with the double players. Elsewhere in defence, I've got Estepinian on there. 0.15 though. I mean, that is a really, really low, you know, kind of non-penalty XGI per 90. That's kind of expected an attacking return every 6-ish games for him. Not really kind of what I expected when he came in. I thought his defensive kind of acumen would be in question, but his attacking potential would be really, really high. Haven't really seen too much of that. I mean, it's better than Dunks, for example, 0.09. But you always feel like he can get something from a set piece, given how good he is in the air, whereas Estepinian isn't creating a lot from open play from the left. And I've added IDES and Stones. There's nothing in it, you know, attacking-wise, that they're not likely to get you any attacking returns. But they do seem pretty nailed, if you want to call it that, in that City team. This week aside, hard to know with the Real Madrid game coming, but between the end of the season, I'd expect Diaz and Stones to play the majority of matches. You know, it doesn't really matter whether City get into that Champions League final or not. They're pushing for the league, and they are arguably their 2 best defenders at the moment. So I like Diaz at 6, Stones at 5-6 as well. I think it's been enough time since the injury as well. They're 2 players that I've got earmarked for game week 37. And then in midfield, De Bruyne is top of the pile, 0.75. He's been very, very frustrating, though, to own for a lot of people this season. Salah just behind him, 0.64. That's increased over the last 6. I think that's about 0.7, hitting the heights that we become accustomed to with him over the last few years. I think he's really, really important between now and the end of the season. And I know people are going to be looking to potentially sell him next week for Fernandes. Liverpool play Villa at home. Fernandes has got the double and then goes into a good home game against Fulham in 38. I can see the temptation there, but I think I'll probably be sticking with Salah. It's Southampton for him in 38. And yeah, if I'm going to get Fernandes, it'll be through a different route. But I think I probably won't be getting him, which could spell the disaster for me. McAllister, look at that. Non-penalty XG per 90, 0.61. That's great, you know, for him. People worried about his kind of defensive midfield kind of, you know, spot, but I think he's playing in that kind of number 8 role where he makes good runs into the box. We've seen players do that so effective over the years, FPL-wise. Toure, Ramsey, you know, Gomez did it for me well last year. Willock is doing that for Newcastle at the moment. You know, getting into positions in and around the central areas, that penalty area, always means they've got a chance of getting a good shot off. And he's not a clinical player, but he has a good strike on him, particularly from range. He's having headers, so many headers as well at the moment. So I'm hopeful that he's gonna do well this week. Going to be bringing him in, going to be captaining him as well. Not many chances as captain before he moves over to Liverpool or City or United or one of them or Arsenal even. At the end of the season, so got to get in that last hurrah before he goes. And then looking down the list, I mean, there's lots of good midfielders here. Rashford, I've got Martinelli is continuing to churn out points. He could be a factor in the Wolves game in 38, I think. Grealish and Mahrez, both tied on 0.55. Both around the same price as well. Mahrez with 2 assists last week. Looking quite nailed in the league as well, as he isn't really playing in Europe. I think he comes straight into the Everton match as well, along with Foden. Again, 2 good differential shouts if you are looking outside of the double game week players. Odegaard just continues to be getting points. Absolutely incredible season he's had. 0.5, I mean, decent non-penalty XGI, but not really as high as you'd expect for the amount of goals and assists that he's got this season. So just having one of those wonderful seasons where everything he touched turns to gold. And then the bottom of my watch list is Matoma. Has gone off it a bit, in the last few weeks. Luke asked if teams are starting to find him out a little bit. I think it's a bit of a combination of that. It's a combination of now they know he's a threat, so they're marking him tighter, not letting him do kind of the things that we've seen him do with his feet. But he's been unlucky, I think, not to get more returns. And will I be captaining him this week? Probably not. I think my order would be McAllister, Isak, and then Matoma, and then Wilson as the kind of wild card punt. Wilson's there. Top of the forwards now since the restart. Limited starts, but 0.91, not the XGI. This is why people are considering absolutely elite stats. He was really, really poor in that last game against Arsenal. But if he takes one of the games as that lone striker role, you've got to think he's going to get some returns in that. He's ahead of the likes of Jesus, 0.82, Haaland, 0.79. I've added in Ciso as well. I think he's an interesting punt for anyone looking for a Brighton player that has a striker spot available. I prefer him to Ferguson, who's just come back from injury, and Welbeck. I think he's probably going to come back into that right wing spot, but I think he definitely starts both games in the double as well. So I like that move. Isak's there, 0.55, which is ahead of Kane and Watkins, which I was quite surprised at. But yeah, far less points than both of those. Nearly half of Kane's, showing how clinical he is. But yeah, obviously I like Isak as well this season. So yeah, there you go. There's the watch list. How is my team shaping up? Well, here it is. I don't think it looks too bad, but I said that last week and it did terribly. It's De Gea at home at Wolves. Surely that's a clean sheet. I'm there. So much better at home. Manchester United compared to their away form. It's Trent, it's Trippier and Dunk. Dunk, I'm not confident on at all. 2 away matches, 2 games I'm expecting him to concede in. But I think I've got to play the doubler. Little bit tempted to go for Porro against Villa. But then I've got Watkins. I don't really want to do the double up. I've just got to hope that Dunk maybe gets an unexpected clean sheet against Arsenal would be nice, although I can't see it. Or maybe a header in one of those 2 matches. Salah, Rashford. March is going to be McAllister and Matoma. And then Haaland, Watkins and Isak. That is the team. And Grealish, Moreno and Porro on the bench. So yeah, an easy move this week. Didn't have to think about it too much. Got a bit of money in the bank. I'm happy to hold Watkins against Spurs. I think Watkins to Wilson is going to be a popular move for quite a few people to try and target that Newcastle double, and given that his stats, I don't mind it for free. I think if I had it for free, I would do it. If I saw that he was starting against Leeds, I'd be really, really tempted to go for it. But as it is, I've obviously got the March problem to deal with. So yeah, it'll be March to McAllister. Really frustrating injury. Like, you just don't want an injury like that when you've already got your kind of doublers in place. That means I'm going to be going in with one less doubler this week, which is very frustrating. Peter says Porro 15 points confirmed. Oh please no! Surely Villa score in that game at home to Spurs. I can't see Spurs keeping them out of that match. They were lucky to keep Palace out, I think. So yeah. Anyway, do we have any questions before I end the stream? Kareem, as a Brighton fan, do you think Ferguson could be a good punt? Yeah, I don't hate it. I think he definitely starts one of the 2 matches. He he didn't change the game against Everton because we still lost comfortably. But when we had made those changes, we looked a lot better. with March coming on, with Ferguson, with Enciso, and you look at the team that we put out, and it was an under strength team. Buonanotte won't start. Either of these double matches, I wouldn't have thought. So yeah, I think Ferguson comes in. It's just when you've got a young player and he's been injured, and we've got all these games coming in quick succession, there has to be some kind of management of their minutes. So I think Matoma, McAllister, and Estepinian, that is the obvious three for me if I was picking. Steele is a bit of a risk now. I think Sanchez could potentially come in over the next 2 weeks. I'm not sure which game, whether he keeps faith in Steele, but if Steele puts in or Brighton put in another bad performance, the goalkeeper's quite an easy one to switch out, especially because Sanchez hasn't done anything wrong really in the last few weeks, and his attitude seems to be really good. So we'll see what happens with that. So yeah, Estepinian, Matoma, and McAllister for me, and then Enciso I think I'd go for over Ferguson if you're picking. Gary Worthington says still got Jota. Who should I swap him for? Go Wilson. I think we don't know that Jota's going to start. I mean, it's not a terrible idea to keep him and hope that he gets a start in that. But I think I'd rather have Wilson, who also is a bit of a minutes risk, but has great stats. So if I had Jota and I could do Jota to Wilson for free, I'd be doing that. Khalid, March to Willock. Love the Willock move. Yeah, he's the Newcastle mid that I'd go for. I was all on Joe Linton last week, but I think given that we don't really know what's going on with Longstaff, we know Almiron's back, that kind of winger spot. So Maximan's there as well. We're not really too sure where Joe Linton's going to be playing, whether he's going to be dropping deeper, whereas we know that Willock's going to be in that central midfielder role, getting forward. So yeah, really like Willock. I think that's probably as good as it gets from a differential this week. Because a few people captaining him as well, so fair play if you're going for that. If you're Lighthouse, Enciso or Alvarez, I'd go Enciso. I just don't trust Alvarez to start. You're getting 4 games compared to a maximum of 3 for Alvarez. I think Enciso starts all of those games. Alvarez, I think, probably gets 2 out of those. So yeah, I'd probably go for him. Eddie Casey, do you think Grealish starts? I don't think he does. He was absolutely knackered in that Champions League game. Why wouldn't he play Foden and Mahrez? It worked well for them against Leeds, and they both had a rest. And I think Grealish is pretty important against Madrid to keep the ball and drive forward and win free kicks. So my guess would be Grealish doesn't play, but I mean, you never really know with Pep. And the final one, Daryl, thoughts of a City mid versus Everton. Is it a difficult game, given they might be resting some players and Everton are motivated to get points? Yeah, well, it's a tricky game to predict who's going to start for City. They made no changes in the Champions League at all, and that was their kind of strongest team. Mahrez, for me, is a good move, and so is Foden as well. I just think both of those players start. I can't see why they would get full rest in the Champions League, come off the back of a win against Leeds and then not play against Everton. So I like either of those two. I like the Mahrez move, I mean, Mahrez has been so bad for me in the past, but if you're targeting that double in 37 and you're getting this Everton game, I mean, it's not an easy game, but you still expect City to win 2-3 by 2 or 3 goals. So yeah, if you are looking for a differential outside of kind of things, then I think then Mahrez is a good shout. So yeah, I like it. Richard Moforth, just finally, TAA and Short on the bench. Yeah, it might not be my bench that hurts as much as other people's this week. I'm seeing some really, really stacked benches from players. And I get it, you're trying to play double game with players, you're trying to play Botman and Trippier, and then your Brighton defender, so that's your 3 defenders. And then you've got Shaw with a good game, you've got Trent, how do you fit him in, and things like that. My advice I've been saying all week, don't bench Trent. Trent should be the number 1 player in your team. Trent and Trippier, have those 2 spots locked, then decide what you're doing with the third one. Would not be benching him. I'd be playing Trent over, Dunk, Cher, Botman, all 3 of those. Estepinian's a harder call, but we've seen from the attacking stats, they're not amazing. So I'd be playing Trent over him as well. I just can't see us keeping clean sheets in either of those 2 games. And I think Trent could hit a big haul against Leicester. So yeah, I would definitely be playing him. Right. I am going to blow my nose. I tried to find a hay fever tablet earlier, couldn't find one. I'm going to have another look now. Good luck, everyone, in Game Week 36. Not too many games left to go. Thank you for joining me. this morning, and I will see you all very soon.